Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ahead of the Curve. Today, I've got my good friend Ruben Laine on the show with me today. Hey, Ruben, how's it going?
What's up? Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Ahead of the Curve.
Oh,
we've been missing you. Is your audio? You can hear me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We want to make sure we don't have any technical difficulties. Because that's something that we've never had a problem with in the past, right?
What? No, of course not. that would diminish the quality of our work.
Of course. Right. So Ruben, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you what do you do now, and what do you enjoy doing? And hey, Daryl Ross.
What's up, buddy? The OG Grandmaster.
The team is here.
The man who started it all.
Look what you've done to us, Daryl.
Yeah, always. Just teary-eyed. The crew is back together. Let's see. So I guess I started as an LD, lighting programmer type person in theater. Evolved through the ranks into a media server programmer, operator, tech, and lighting tech, and integrator nerd. And so I guess the final evolution of my Pokemon form would be what I'm calling a creative integrator.
Is that stage 3? Or have you gone full GX?
It feels like it's probably like closer to stage 5. There's been so many of I feel like there's, when you kind of begin to reminisce about, bits of your history and like what you've done. And like, I think of my Vista days and Daryl as like 4 lifetimes ago, at least, because in between now that I'm using Evo as my primary platform for control, it's like, well, before that, there was the MA2 and then MA1, and then there was the stint with like the Vista. So there's been all these evolutions to how I've gotten to where I've gotten. And so I kind of consider like each one of these milestones almost like one of those lifetimes. There was the bit that I spent working with like Catalyst. Even the time that I spent playing with WYSIWYG, back when I started playing with that was I learned so much about so many different technologies. And then now fast forward to now, I can't narrow myself down anymore to like a single task that I like to own in a production. So I've finally decided what I really enjoy doing is integrate a bunch of solutions together. Like if you give me the old box that you have in your attic full of NES controllers and like, here's a cable box and I don't know, some other random electronics and that old 12-volt power supply that you don't even know what it goes to anymore. Like, Ruben, I do something with this. That's where the creative integrator part of my title comes from. And I find that I get a lot of fun with this because I get to hang out with my video friends, with my lighting friends, with my laser friends. We can all throw together shade at the audio guys and then make fun of the video guys cabling without, And it's like, I'm a video guy too. I can do it. I can mess with those guys. So, yeah, man, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So what have you out of the last few years? I mean, you've been doing a lot of work with Evo, and you've been doing a lot of stuff kind of on your own. What have been some of the more interesting projects and things that you've worked on over the past couple of years?
I am going to throw a huge shout out at Scott Chmielewski. And, back when I spent almost 5 years working with digital media at DMD Studios, that was a huge career opportunity for me. Scott gave me so much support growing up and just getting access to so many different technologies that as a single freelancer, that had just become a freelancer breaking out of working for other people. I wouldn't have had at the time. So getting some really big projection mapping projects, such as being the first ones to projection map on the American Airlines Arena, being the first one to projection map on the National Mall for the African American Studies Museum. That's literally right next to the Washington Monument. And it was the first time that anyone did any projection mapping on the mall. And that was amazing. And it was a logistical nightmare. And it's, to this day, it's like, my little,
the little star that you have on your sleeve.
Yeah, I always, we'll always have, some people say like, we'll always have Paris. I'm like, I'll always have DC. Which, by the way, that museum, the Smithsonian African American Studies Museum, it's a beautiful installation. I think they're closed currently because of the COVID. But if you have a chance to go see it, there's a variety of interactive installations inside, the entire architecture, the design, the collection of African American, related artifacts in there is just mind blowing.
Have to make sure to check it out next time in DC.
Hopefully, we'll be open soon. Yes.
Yeah, with any luck, it will be open soon.
Yeah, but fast forwarding a little bit more through a few projects. A couple years back, I was working with the folks from Westview to do some really interesting video mapping and movement tracking on Ferris wheel project. And now, what can I talk about?
Well, let's talk about the history museum project a little bit more. And it would be interesting to hear some of the challenges and some of the logistical challenges that you came across in having to put that project together, because I'm sure there was a lot of aspects that were quite interesting and challenging to overcome during the time. So I think that would definitely be some interesting information for the viewers to hear about.
One of the interesting things that you find you run into a lot, that's not easy right there. But one of the most interesting challenges that you'll come up with when projection mapping is, depending on the complexity and what parties are involved, it is this both dream and nightmare scenario where let's go through the positive side, right? An architectural firm is involved, and when you say, hey, can I have some elevations? Not only do you get some elevations, but you're gonna get like a full 3D model. Every millimeter of architectural specification is into it, and it's like, oh, this is the greatest gift that someone who's modeling or putting together a model can ever get access to. Nightmare scenario of that, you have literally every millimeter specification, so every nut, bolt, sheet of plywood, plexi, and everything is in there. So having to sort through 4 billion layers of detail to just get to like, oh, I just wanted the external surfaces so that I can create my mask. Shit, that can be fun and challenging. Then there is the aspect of site planning, where you'd say, okay, well, the client and the city or whatever entity have decided that this is a location for your projection towers. And so you go through an entire photometric study and a lens study, and like, this is going to be optimal and great output. And then you get to the site and you build your scaffolding, and a fire inspector or some... did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Sorry. We'd get gotta put this thing on airplane mode. We would get,
that
some
ADHD is kicking in strong.
Absolutely. You'd get some sort of person with a slight bit of power, and they say, oh, you gotta move this tower 5 feet that way because this is some sort of pedestrian. It's like, you do realize there's 50 feet of space all around this tower. Like, people can clearly walk around this. No. But fire code dictates that you gotta be 5 feet that way. Great. There goes all your photometric studies and like any pre-calculations that you thought you had ready to go. Yeah, stuff like that. And so with this being the first time that anyone did something like this at the mall, at the National Mall of all places, there were so many checks and balances of make sure you're not putting a single pixel on the Washington Monument. It has to stay right here. It's like, I'm not pointing, I don't care, not even a reflection. I'm like, okay, you got it. It's okay. We're gonna be okay. We're not gonna, I promise I'm not gonna put any political propaganda on the Washington Monument. That's not.
So there are lots of restrictions. It's surprising, actually, the story that you just told about the fire marshal. You know, 'cause I know in a lot of cases where I've had to do design work or site planning, there's been just an enormous amount of process that has to take place to be able to get things approved, you know, and get things pre-approved and stamped by the fire marshals. And, you know, things definitely change, and it's super weird, but it's just an interesting process to hear about you being in a place like Washington, D.C., for example, and having fire marshals coming up and saying, oh, no, you gotta, you know, you move things around and that's not approved. And, you know, it's just kind of crazy.
Or, you know, here's a lesson learned. If you're setting up a scaffolding for your projectors and that scaffolding is eventually going to be wrapped with any type of weatherproofing, do not focus, blend, merge, map, or otherwise alter anything. Don't even start working until your riggers are done with the structure and they have put the weatherproofing and everything else. I am not going to go into details why you want to do that, but
I guess we could put 2 and 2 together and figure that one out pretty clearly.
I'll just put it this way. You got to remember how video beams, like any beam, has an angle and a distortion, and 1 micron at your source, once amplified, it can be up to a foot's different between where that pixel was supposed to land and where it shifted after life happens.
So how much time did you have to set everything up, and how many projectors did you have for that project?
That was so much fun. We had it was 10 projectors per tower, because it was supposed to be, we ended up getting 4 pairs per tower of 30Ks, and then a pair of 20Ks that kind of like covered everything as a backup. If we ever lost signal, we had like some sort of output. But on that bronze finish of the building, those 20Ks just did not tickle the building at all, didn't know nothing. But we still mapped it and filled it and merged it and blended it. So 4 towers, it was 40 projectors total. Tad and Jacob, actually, who we were talking to the other day, was with the ScreenWorks team, and they did an amazing job at merging and converging the projector pairs to get that extra volume. So while I had 40 projectors on site, I only had to handle about 20 different output signals. And then thanks to the beauty of AI, we basically did narrow it down then from that to 10 video signals per each side of the building.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
I think that mathematically makes sense.
Yeah, so it was 40 projectors. You cut that in half because you're doubling everything else. So that takes you down to 20 projectors. Then split the 20 projectors between the 2 sides of the building, and you get 10 projectors and 10 projectors. Yeah, that's right. Something like that. It was a while back, man. Come on, give me a break.
How long did the show run for, Ruben?
I think it ran for, we had the day of the ceremony, because it was kind of like if I remember, it was about 6 months to the opening day. So it's kind of like a bit of like a building christening. That the reason for the for the event. So it was kind of like the building pre-christening, and we did that. And then after the christening, I think it ran for 3 additional days. We had 2 days to load in. We were completely loaded and mapped the first night in about 8 hours. And then life happened, and we managed to get it all refocused and ready to go for the christening in about 3 hours between sunset and doors. And yeah.
So it was definitely a on the edge of your seat event.
I will forever, if people ask me why I'm such a huge AI fan, it has to do with the fact of being able to come up with a workaround or a solution to remap an entire building in 3 hours. That was, yeah, that's definitely going to be it. Especially back then. We're talking, like 4 or 5 years ago, I think, at this point.
Yeah, that's a pretty good amount of time. Like 5 years in today's age of technology is like decades of time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. At the pace that entertainment technologies are developing right now, it's just neck breaking. Look at another great example is just what we were doing last night. So we had AvoLight just released their D9 console, their Series 9 console.
Beautiful. I love the demo that I got while you guys were here in Orlando.
Thank you so much for coming. It was so nice to have you, your individual attention for what, like almost like an hour and a half.
I know, right?
Yeah. Phones off. Let's leave them in the car. The entire new platform is amazing, and for anyone that's been keeping up with Synergy, which allows you to, it's an entire new level of control between in just the integration of patching and parameter control between the lighting desk and the media servers. It just gives you such a fine and interactive level of control. And then being able to have 2 consoles 1,400 miles away from each other, join in the same network, and then pixel map with a media server that's here with a console that's 1,400 miles away into a streaming ACN capture visualizer setup. That was pretty special.
Did you guys have any latency on that?
I believe the clock was 20 milliseconds.
Oh wow! Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, the guys from Just Networking are doing an amazing job. I can't wait till all the little details are already open, because it personally, as an integrator, as someone who provides support services for this industry, this is the next level of it's beyond TeamViewer, it's beyond everything else. There's nothing like it.
Well, I'm looking forward to being able to check it out. I think that's one of the really interesting parts about it. And Daryl, absolutely, robotic loudspeakers, definitely evolutionary in so many different ways. Actually, just speaking about what Daryl does, Daryl works for a amazing audio company that's really, again, ahead of the curve, and they've built one of the first robotic line array systems, and to a lot of people that might not mean a whole lot, but it definitely helps a lot in setup and being able to refine things. But it has a big play into everything that we do live, especially in leading technology, the way that technologies go. And it's going to be really interesting to see, like, kind of how everything kind of comes back together again too, with a lot of the things that have changed even in the course of the last year, right?
Yeah. So there's this beautiful little saying that his name escapes me now, but great production tour manager gave me once. It's like, look, audio, when it comes to loading, audio is science, lighting is art, and video should be done by lunchtime.
That is a great saying.
and absolutely, and it's so true. And thinking about the science of audio mixing, like, we make fun of noise voice all the time, but I don't want their job. That is a whole nother level of nerdiness that it's beyond my realm of understanding, how you manipulate air molecules in either a confined or open air space, how it changes based on the volume of people, the temperature. Like, yeah, that's definitely science. This is me showing as much as I know about sound. It's just something about vibrations and molecules and humidity, and that's it. Like, I may be nerdy, but I'm not that level of nerdy, I guess.
So I guess that puts Daryl at a whole different level of nerdy.
Well, he's always been. That's why we love him so much.
So, in speaking about, like, control has been a big thing, and we've been speaking about control for media servers for quite some time. There's been a lot of controversy between whether lighting should control video or video should have its own operator. We've been seeing a lot of different transitions going back and forth between, responsibilities between the lighting departments and video departments. And this goes even project to project. I mean, lighting has definitely infiltrated fixed installation markets and fixed installation spaces as much as it's done inside the live events world, because of course a lot of that trickles through and they kind of burned and merged together. What have been some of the big advancements that you've seen between, actually, we use the D9 as a great example. What have been some of the big changes and evolutions that you've seen in control between, say, a conventional lighting desk and some of the newer lighting desks that are coming out that are video related?
So the first big change comes with just the nomenclature. I have a hard time referring to a lighting desk as a lighting desk anymore, because it's not just lights, it's lasers, it's video, it's automation, sometimes pyro. So there's a term that the guys from Avo coined a couple years back. It's total creative control. Absolutely, a lighting consoles, as much as they're supposed to be like, I'll have my dimmers and my moving lights, that is gone. And even if you let's take it even further into the past year. The entire integration of DMX, ArtNet, Streaming ACN, any control platform with Unreal, and having a lighting desk control an entire environment, everything from the time of day to the position of the sun. Look at what the guys from Carbon are doing. It's, again, mind-blowing that you can control the level of atmospherics and the light refraction in real time. So much for lighting control, man. That's just it's absolutely the highest level of control you can get for creativity.
Yeah, well, we've seen a lot of changes in that. I mean, back in the Vista days when we were doing Vista, that was one of the main reasons why I shifted over to a linear-based time code. Was was programming a lot more media servers at that time, and you're not, I mean, you still have conventional cues and timings, but in the video world, you're still you're dealing with frame rates and you're dealing with time on a much larger scale. And working with the Vistas back then kind of gave us the liberty to be able to not only program and control lighting and coordinate lighting effects to video, but it actually gave a lot more flexibility back in those days in programming conventional media servers.
Absolutely.
And even now on a lot of the bigger shows that we see, like all of the big award shows and all of the big televised events, you see a lot of the video departments sitting backstage with a lighting controller, like a Grand MA2 or pick your flavor here, but they're back there as a video controller. They're not controlling any lighting at all. They're just controlling video. Like that's all they're doing is controlling video. And it's been really interesting to see a lot of convergence happening between the lighting world and the video world now. Like just kind of going back to the demo that you guys gave me of D9, being able to see some of the effects and some of the transitions that you guys have created and some of the integration work that you've done to be able to integrate the media server so tightly into the lighting controller was just mind-blowing. Like the pixel mapping effects that you guys had created inside of D9 and being able to basically control and put a lot of the mathematical parameters together to be able to control those different parameters and automate a lot of that. It's just come so far.
It's the beauty of having a company as like Avolites, which is the oldest control company in history. Literally, they're 47 years old. They started like the only I think, and I could be slightly wrong, not very, but I know that like from the companies that we currently consider as like the nucleus of the history of entertainment lighting and production. ETC has a couple years on them, but they started doing lighting fixtures, not necessarily control. So when it comes to having under one roof, having a media server company and a lighting control company, a power distribution and management, which it's a shame that you can't find. They're very hard to find their dimmer and their power distros in the Americas. They're all over Europe, and they're brilliant.
I love the dimmer racks, and I mean, I remember back in the day. Again, I don't want to really super age myself, but just I was always overjoyed to receive an Avo dimmer pack.
Absolutely,
because the pin patch panels on the top were amazing. It was completely innovative. That was well before anybody else had put mini pin patch panels on the rack. And it was just so easy to set everything up, and it just made a whole lot of sense. And you could tell that the company has put a lot of time and a lot of effort and thought into the way that they create their product. It's been incredible.
Brad.
Hey, Brad. Welcome to the show, Brad.
We have a unscheduled demo in the middle of today. I wasn't expecting this. It's like we've had guests.
He needs to make like funny faces behind your head and make you. Yeah, there we go.
Good call.
So Ruben,
I think I'm gonna change rooms, but why don't you talk for a minute while I physically.
Are you gonna physically move yourself?
We'll do a drive-by
panoramic.
Drive-by D9 demo in the back there.
Drive-by demo.
Yeah.
Preview.
And
I was just gonna say that it's kind of fun watching you move around, but I also wanted to kind of drive back into the main topic that we were going to talk about today, which is kind of hunting down those holy grails inside of our world and inside of the spaces. I know that a lot of the holy grails in our world have definitely kind of or have morphed into more generative video elements, and seeing a lot of evolution happen within the generative spaces. It's been kind of interesting because if you kind of look at it in from a historical sense, media servers and their conventional means were kind of the start of generative media in a lot of ways, being able to add basic shaders as visual effects, or even if you look back, going even further into the visual effects world, where visual effects and live, I guess you could call it kind of live animated video that is reactive kind of really started taking its form there. And a lot of those processes and a lot of the ways that those workflows kind of translated and moved their way into the media server world and into the video world. And we've now finding ourselves, I think, starting to kind of hit pinnacles of creative control over media that can be fully adaptive, fully reactive in any way, shape, or form that you want to manipulate and use it. It was interesting, actually. On Monday, Ruben and I were invited by the local number one up in New York to be part of their TFT TV. Is it TFT? It's TFT.
TT.
Right?
TT. Yeah.
So we were welcome there as guest panelists on their show on Monday night, and it was really kind of mind-blowing just to hear the conversation unfold about all of the different technologies that we're dealing with now and what we can do today that we were just not able to do 5 to 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
it's been quite an interesting time to see how things have been evolving and changing. And I'm just thinking about as well the digital art worlds. And if you go to a digital art installation these days, it's all interactive. I mean,
Right.
almost every single digital art installation that I've been to and I've been involved in over the course of the last, probably say at least the last 5 years, have all been fully interactive.
Yeah, I mean, I feel, and I could be wrong, but it's with the way that media and just everything is delivered to us right now. It's almost like, give me experiential or give me death. Like, even going to let's think about going to a museum, not even 20 years ago, because I remember going to a art museum in Venezuela 25 years ago as a young and then seeing a level of interactivity between in the installations, and this is Venezuela in the 80s, 90s. So even I would say even like way back when, going to a museum has been, to any type of installation, it's about the experience. It's about understanding, if you go to a museum and there's no placards, there's no names, there's no titles on the art, even then you're still experiencing something. But at the rate of information that we're getting right now, making these installations completely interactive has been almost a necessity, when you can just open your phone for like the going in from the lobby level to 3 stories up in an elevator, right? It's like information. I think it's the same for going to any type of art installation. It needs to be, it's got to become more experiential. And how we integrate all these things together is really the next holy grail to me. And I know it sounds like I'm just pushing synergy. I want to make it clear, I don't work for Avolites, haven't worked for Avolites for over a year. But I found a great vehicle for this in synergy. The fact that I can grab an entire lighting and video installation and pixel map, coordinate everything from the console. A great example of that was the design that I did for the Avolites booth. Not the last LDI, but the LDI before that, which was like 2018 now.
Yeah, back when you could actually hang around the circle bar and...
Right. So we had an entire video wall with like some tiles missing in the middle of it, and then we just put like spiders or Roby tarantulas or something. And so we had pixel mapped those tarantulas inside of where those LED tiles go. And then on top of that, we're like, all right, how do we make this more interactive? How do we show how impossibly to program something like this was? And Kyle Means from Visional provided some black tracks.
Kyle's
absolutely awesome. He's the best. He brought a bunch of black tracks devices, and we created a couple of interactive notch blocks with like swirls and trackers. So you could literally like grab, your hand and drive pixels live from a video into a tarantula or a spider, and like right back into the video without missing a beat, no latency. Like, well, I don't want to say no latency, but
latency, a low enough latency that was not visible to the eye.
Let's just use the term real time. Yeah. So real time, and it was beautiful and it's wonderful. And again, it's all about experiential and finding those holy grails. I find Notch to be another one of those pieces of the puzzle. Just I need to render live text. I need to play a scene based on time of day, weather data, you name it. Sure. I'm actually currently working on an installation for a commercial installation that an artist is providing a structure that we're going to projection map. And they said, okay, well, we want to make this somehow interactive. But we don't want to make it a thing where like people have to actively be interacting with it for it to do something. So we're like, okay, well, how about we have layers of interactivity in the art piece, so that we'll have sound reactivity will be like layer number 1, and then layer number 2 on top of that, it comes from weather information, also like monitoring the amount of network traffic in the can't give enough away, into the businesses Wi-Fi connection. So as you log in, like, hey, log in for whatever, just logging in to use their internet, it's giving you some sort of traffic, network packet traffic data that you can use. We're going to use the amount of, not the information that's flowing through, but just the bandwidth, just how much traffic is happening. Turn that into, sparkles that like fly through the, don't say what it is, through the art piece. Noise level, the number of orders, if someone pulls their phone out, and that's when it's starting to get like really complicated, but tracking QR codes and making it interactive, and there's all these beautiful, crazy things that you can do with AI and Notch integrated together. The sky's the limit.
Yeah, I could totally agree with you wholeheartedly there. I remember working on a project. This was a few years ago, and it was with a company for the MTA in Chicago, for their one of their train stations. They wanted to make a fully interactive display, but they wanted to read. They actually wanted to read the different noise levels that were generated from the trains coming into the stations.
Nice.
And yeah, so we put a bunch of sensors along the train tracks, and started to interpolate a lot of that data and that information coming into the system to be able to control basically lighting fixtures, that were artistically placed throughout train station, to be able to generate an atmosphere of the trains kind of coming in and leaving the stations, which was really, really cool.
Yep.
But for me, I think I agree with you. I mean, a lot of the challenges that I've been seeing inside of our industries, and a lot of the things that I find that people end up spending actually a huge amount of time with, is trying to get third-party devices to work with the things that they're trying to do with them, like webcams and LiDAR-based devices, and Arduinos being used as kind of third-party communication tools. I think, and just control in general, I think is kind of still one of the areas that needs some love. Like it. We've been seeing. I mean,
I think
I work for a company that owns a show control. That owns one of the leading show controllers in the world of MediaLawn.
Yeah.
And it's amazing at all the things that it can do, but it's just really taking those things and trying to make them easier for people. And
Yeah.
and working on the workflows. I think once we've got things that are really well streamlined and tools that allow other pieces of software to communicate better with each other, I think that's really going to be where we start to see, that holy grail. At least that's what I would consider like the holy grail in my mind, is the ability to intercommunicate no matter what application or whatever you're using, but be able to have those workflows and be able to intercommunicate with each other so that you can just create incredible things, relatively easily, rather than putzing around and trying to configure different things and downloading different drivers and what driver do you have and what protocol are we going to use, and well, this protocol doesn't support this but it does support this, so we can do it this way. And then getting into the networking of it all and being able to configure all the networking traffic so that it all communicates properly and you're getting all the packets that you need from whatever protocol you're using. Like, I know you can see you're laughing.
Yeah, I mean,
rambling along, but
because sometimes you walk into a project, right, and you may not be the person in charge, but you're the liaison. Sometimes you're just like the assistant of getting things done incorporated, and so the project engineer or the person in charge or even the designer or the artists themselves may have an idea of what they can do, such as, hey, I want to control this PTZ camera with my hand or something, and like the most recent example, it's like, oh yeah, I've read the manual. You're supposed to be able to send TCP/IP commands, and so it's just TCP over over Ethernet or RS-232 over Ethernet. It's like, yes, but Visca commands are actually a little more specific, and you need to be able to send like this type of this character or that that bit and at this speed or this type of feedback in order to you don't just start the command, you have to stop the command or the camera will just continue panning forever. Well, there's a little bit more than just understanding the basic lingo in the conversation. You have to understand a little bit more to that. There are great tools out there for those who want to play with integration. The most entry-level one that I think that everyone should play with right now is Companion. It's free. It's a free tool. It has unlimited power, basically. If you can, unlimited. Yeah, I mean, it's a free tool, and it is fairly easy to work with. You will find there's a huge community online of people that are always coming up with different patches for different things and different configurations. But then if you wanted to get to like the big boy leagues of something like a Companion, or not Companion, but to me, what's going to be the ultimate integrator tool for the entertainment industry is Stage Precision. I think what those boys in Germany are doing is just absolutely next level. Being able to convert, transform, interpret anything to anything it's next level.
The funny thing is, in a lot of ways, is Stage Precision kind of did what companies like Disguise and D3 did, with the media server world, is they took what was conventionally done in a 2D world and made it visible in a 3D world and transformed everything so that data was able to be read and be able to be visualized in a 3D form, in a 3D fashion. Like some of the other tools that have been around for a long time, and one of the tools that I've actually become quite fond of over the past several months is Max MSP. And what you can do with Max is completely off the charts. It's got a very steep learning curve, but once you kind of work your way around it, kind of like any nodal system and any nodal piece of software, and you kind of learn the ins and outs of it, it's incredible what you can do with those tools. It's kind of like, looking at Touch Designer and what Touch can do. It's a Swiss Army knife of all kinds of you can use it for doing video related things. You can use it for doing control related things. You can use it for, just about anything.
Yeah.
And the adaptability and the flexibility of those tools is incredible. But it takes time to learn them, like it definitely takes quite a time and commitment to be able to master those tools, which makes it challenging right now because there's so many really good tools that are available on the market and really great tools for people to be able to go out there and learn. Like, it's amazing just talking about what we were talking about on Monday to see how much training has become available from companies and support for training during the pandemic. Like, if there was a time to learn a new product, it's like now.
Now, you know what? Let's make it, that would be the holy grail right now. Everyone's always going to say education is the silver bullet, right? Really, it is just, and it's self-discipline. Which is horrible for people like myself with ADHD. But just sit down. If there's something that you want to learn, is there something that you want to even just educate yourself more about? You don't have to be an expert on every topic or every aspect of a particular subject that you want to become more proficient about. But you have to start being able to have that conversation to understand what other people in that community are talking about when the lingo just keeps coming up. So like words like patching and how that translates to different things in different worlds. Like, we're just talking about hard patching dimmers into the top of a rack, and then turn that into soft patching and DMX, and it's kind of like the same thing, but it changes based on the market.
You bring that a step further and go into Max MSP, and they're called patches. Everything
exactly,
you're doing
right?
patch.
Same thing for salvation in AI, which is what really drove me into AI was the entire salvation ecosystem, the nodular, programming base, and no code required. Just so if you're listening and you're wondering, okay, what should I do next? Stop wondering. Just pick what it is that you want to learn, what you want to do, and just open Google and say, how do I, reuse something that I said earlier in the week. Go into your community and find out your creative and your designers and integrators and your studios nearby, creative integration studios near you, and reach out and ask, hey man, I'm trying to learn about lighting or lasers or video or projection mapping. Where can I find resources to further myself down this path? You would be surprised up to the amount of resources that are free of charge or readily accessible. I think about like an editor license for Avolites that gives you access to their lighting consoles and to AI on demo mode. It's $100 and it's perpetual and gives you one universe of DMX via ARNet or streaming ACN. And unlimited control of synergy fixtures. So let's say that you get hired to run 100 layers of AI in an installation. You could literally do that from your laptop with a $100 license, because Synergy gives you unlimited control, no parameter count of AI devices via Synergy.
It's very
pretty
cool.
magical.
Yeah, actually, on that note, anybody that is watching that is interested in learning more about particular products, you guys could also drop us a note. You could drop us a note on the Facebook page. You could drop us a note through LinkedIn. You can drop us a note through email as well. Our email address, I know that we probably don't have it. I don't know if we do have it available, but it's hello at aheadofthecurve.one. So if you guys have any questions at any point of time where you are looking for resources, you want to learn a new product, or you want to learn something, we can definitely refer you and connect you to all of the amazing individuals and guests that we've had on the shows week after week after week. So, please feel free to drop us a note at any time if you need help in trying to find resources or if you're looking to learn something new. So Ruben, I just want to thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to wrap this one up for today, but I really appreciate having you on the show with me today. For those of you watching, if you want to reach out to Ruben, you can reach out to him, Ruben at creativeintegration.studio. The website's also creativeintegration.studio, ironically. So Ruben, thanks so much for being on the show with me today. It's been fantastic having you as a guest, and it's been fun having this fairly casual conversation about what we think are coming up, and what the trends are and what kind of keep an eye on.
Absolutely.
So next week I'm going to have another friend of mine, Velo Verkhaus, on the show, and he is a pretty well-known VJ inside the industry and a visual artist. He's been working a lot, of course, in virtual production and extended reality techniques, but also been doing a lot of really interesting work through the electronic music industry. So that's going to be pretty neat to touch on next week and see how things are going. So Ruben, thanks again for being on the show. Really appreciated having you here. And to all of those of you viewing, stay ahead of the curve, everyone. Thanks for watching.